there everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Jess. I talk about writing, self-publishing, and travel. And in today's video, we are going to be unpacking the 7 main types of fictional conflict. But before we get into that, don't forget to subscribe for new videos every week. Now before we get into the 7 different types of conflict, we need to talk about what conflict is and why your story needs it. If you've ever sat in a high school biology class, you know that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. You can think of conflict as being the mitochondria of the story. It is the main engine that drives the plot forward and gives the characters something to work towards. It is also the number one thing that keeps your readers engaged with the plot. It shouldn't be too challenging or too simple, and it should absolutely force the character to grow in some way. Now you may have heard people refer to stories as either being character-driven or plot-driven, but what exactly does that mean? In a character-driven story, the stakes are usually a little bit lower and the conflict is internal, so it has to do with the character's thoughts, beliefs, trauma, etc. Compare this to a plot-driven story where there is a very clear and direct sequence of events, and usually the conflict is external. Now let's start off with the most common form of external conflict, which is person versus person, also known as character versus character, protagonist versus antagonist, good guy versus bad guy, you name it. There are many different ways of identifying this particular conflict, but the core idea is still the same. And basically, your main character is up against another character who is trying to thwart their effort to achieve some sort of goal. Following person versus person conflict, we have person versus self, which is a form of internal conflict. In stories where the main conflict is internal, the conflict usually arises from the person's past traumas or some sort of belief that they have about themselves that holds them back from achieving their goals. The only way for these kinds of stories to move forward is if the character takes responsibility and makes conscious choices to get them out of the situation that they're currently stuck in. Now on the heels of person versus self, we have another form of internal conflict, and this is person versus fate. Some people will call it person versus God or person versus universe. The character feels that the role that they've been forced to play in the story is unfair. They feel that they are not equipped to deal with the main issue at hand, such as when Harry Potter was forced to confront Voldemort. That's just one example. I'm sure you can come up with your own. But in this particular case, the character is resigned to the awareness or the realization that they're not in control of their life, but they have to live it as best they can. If you've ever seen the movie Twisters, either the original one or the remake, then you are no doubt familiar with this next form of conflict, which is person versus nature. In person versus nature stories, basically the main character is confronted with either the elements, a natural disaster, or wild animals that quite frankly don't give a damn about their safety. Similar to person versus nature, person versus society is a conflict that forces the character to confront antagonistic forces within their environment. These antagonistic forces are usually political or socio-economic in nature. Oppression, slavery, bodily autonomy tend to come up quite a bit, and part of their hero's journey is either learning to live with these biases or perhaps changing those biases for the better. Now this next one is for all you Sam and Dean Winchester fans out there, but the next external conflict on the list is person versus supernatural. You probably don't need an explanation, but I'm going to give you one anyway. Basically, in person versus supernatural stories, the main character is confronted with non-human enemies. These could be anything from vampires to werewolves to ghosts to ghouls to demons, you name it. If it doesn't have a heartbeat, it's probably chasing the character down somewhere trying to eat their head. And last but certainly not least, we have person versus technology, which is sometimes referred to as person versus science. In these particular stories, the main character is up against some type of scientific or technological advancement that directly threatens their way of life or safety, or the safety of their family and loved ones. With AI becoming increasingly popular, I feel like we're all the main characters in a person versus technology apocalypse, but we'll see how this one pans out. Also too, if you've ever seen that movie Megan, which I'm pretty sure they're coming out with a sequel, that's another great example of technology that has gone rogue. Even though it was designed to protect someone, it has taken that order just a little too far and is now a force beyond the creator's control. That is it. Those are the 7 main types of fictional conflict. I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe found it useful. If you would like to leave a comment down below letting me know what your favorite type of fictional conflict is, I would love to hear from you. In the meantime, I will be working on my own stories, trying to make the conflicts within them as believable and engaging as possible. Anyway guys, I hope you're doing well and I will catch you on the next one. Bye.